The events of the day, as always, are shocking, and I want to talk about everything. For example, why have the Democrats suddenly started loving Jews again? Yes, well, of course it won't last long, I think, but they do love them. Or why do we Americans need Greenland, and will we get it, even though we're being told about Greenland? Is it so dear to Europe that they would fight the United States for it? Not just to the bitter end, but to the death. Most likely they'll fight until the end. France has already sent 13 soldiers there to defend the European Union on the territory of Greenland. Germany, I think, sent 12 or 11. The United Kingdom found and sent just one soldier. Finland also sent one. Overall, that's good. I think he's shaking. Trump is just shaking because of this. Yeah, and for us, it's the joke of the year. At the Supreme Court hearings, one of the judges asked the defender of the idea that a man can become a woman just by declaring it, and then he can. Well, for example, I don't know, play on a women's basketball team or box against women. And the answer was hilariously funny. The left side couldn't explain whom they call a man or a boy or a woman or a girl. That is, they do call someone that. They even filed with the Supreme Court to defend their right to transition from girls to boys and vice versa, but they don't know what a boy is or what a girl is.
Today, there's an important meeting at the White House amid rising tensions over Greenland. Subtitle editor, yes.
Greenland and Denmark's foreign ministers are meeting in person with the Trump administration. Brian Eibel reports from Washington.
This 90-minute meeting at the White House is taking place as Denmark increases its military presence around Greenland and President Trump intensifies his rhetoric about taking control of the country. Vice President J.D. Vance and Secretary of State Marco Rubio are hosting the Danish foreign minister and the Greenlandic foreign minister. The delegation arrived at the West Wing late Wednesday morning, just hours after President Trump set the meeting's tone with a social media post. Trump maintained his aggressive stance, saying NATO should help the United States acquire Greenland. Because if we don't do it, Russia or China will. He claimed that the United States needs this territory for national security purposes. Trump added that NATO would become much more formidable and effective if Greenland were in the hands of the United States. Anything less than that is unacceptable. Trump did not rule out military action to gain control over Greenland, a self-governing territory of Denmark, although Rubio stated that Trump wants to buy the country, not seize it by force. However, Denmark said that Greenland is not for sale. After today's meeting, the Danish foreign minister reaffirmed this stance.
Ideas that would not respect the territorial integrity of the Kingdom of Denmark and the right of the Greenlandic people to self-determination are, of course, absolutely unacceptable.
This comes a week after it was revealed that for 40 years they have been secretly implanting Inuit women, the indigenous people of Greenland. These are Eskimos. In my previous video, I think I accidentally said a couple of times that they are not Eskimos, but those, I already forgot what I called them, but definitely not Scythians. They secretly implanted IUDs in the girls without their knowledge to prevent them from reproducing. Well, why are Americans bad? They got the Native Americans drunk, killed them all, and we're good. We put IUDs in them. Well, great. They just started doing it. Actually, right after the United States offered to buy the island. No, not now, gentlemen. We've already offered to buy the island from them. That is, they were reducing the number of possible recipients of compensation from the United States. By settling the island itself, that is, the island of Glindadziu, I mean forcibly by the Danes, just like the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics once settled Kazakhstan and Ukraine with Russians, yes, while simultaneously destroying the indigenous population. There are also some completely ridiculous stories, like allocating, say, $80 million to the San Francisco City Hall for buying and distributing alcohol. To whom? Well, you might ask, to whom? You'd never guess. They spent $80 million on giving out alcohol to alcoholics because they felt sorry for them. Well, sometimes you just want to do the right thing. Yeah, you want to cry at the same time. Really? You do. Yeah, but let me tell you this. How many alcoholics got this for free? I'll tell you closer to the end of the show. when I go into a bit more detail about everything. Wait 10 minutes and you'll find out everything. Or, for example, what happens when a crazy feminist, a crazy one, approaches a soldier standing on duty, he's on duty, and getting her face close to his, starts yelling at him that he's a bastard, and other nice words. There will be another absolutely wonderful story like that closer to the end. Now let's talk about something else, about the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party no longer supports Islamic resistance movement. On Saturday, a tweet from Ocasio-Cortez, previously a loyal Hamas supporter and named Antisemite of the Year, appeared. So the message shocked me and everyone else. Here it is, hey.
Marching into a Jewish neighborhood and chanting, "We support Islamic resistance movement," is disgusting and anti-Semitic. It's just gross.
What? Yeah, you were just yelling at the top of your lungs that you support Islamic resistance movement, and accordingly against the vile Jewish Mordovian creatures living on the originally Arab lands called Israel, because she thinks that killing, torturing, and burning Jews is allowed or even necessary, but talking about it is inappropriate. Maybe that's exactly what she thinks. Yes, that's her. It's like the liberal fascists, the progressive homosexuals were cheering for the homosexual killers, cheering for those who throw us off the rooftops of tall buildings. Long live those who shove sharp wooden stakes into the anuses of homosexuals all over the world. Hooray.
When I saw Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's tweet, I couldn't believe it and thought it was from a parody account.
Of course, it's impossible to believe that Ocasio, also known as Cortez, suddenly started loving Jews out of nowhere. But did you notice? Along with the shouting crowd, there was an Orthodox Jew standing there. Well, I don't believe someone just dressed up as a Jew, so it was probably an Orthodox Jew. That very same Jew Mordvin was also happily shouting, "Hooray Hamas, hooray Hamas." And they're probably death to Israel. What else are they shouting? From the river to the sea, or from the sea to the river? Maybe he was calling his father-in-law, by the way. He was shouting, death to Israel, death to Israel. Or maybe his father-in-law's name is Israel. Or, for example, his business partner's name is Israel, and he was shouting death to Israel. But at the same time, literally minute by minute, a few others, mostly in New York, by the way, Democrats, wrote this same text or said it. They didn't copy from each other. There was a time difference with her. She'd say something, but 20-30 minutes would pass. No. At the same time, practically in the same second, it appeared on their accounts. How can you not be ashamed to go to a Jewish neighborhood and shout, "Hooray for Hamas"? I wonder if the neighborhood was populated by Indian yogis. Could you shout, "Hooray for Hamas, death to Israel" there if yogis lived there? Or is it only where Jews live that it's not allowed? But in other places, sure, in other places, of course, you can. I have no doubt that they will do it perfectly as soon as they get the chance. So Schumer, who is Jewish, naturally, and Sharishin, for us, I would say, by his own, let's say, silence, about the killing of 1,200 Jews by Hamas, well, he did mention it, but kind of quietly.
Chuck Schumer condemns support for Islamic resistance movement, calling it an anti-Semitic organization, stating that there is no place for such protests in the United States. 2 days later, he posted a tweet condemning the arson of a synagogue in Jackson, Mississippi. New York's most famous socialist, Zoran Mamdani, also tweeted about the arson in Jackson. And on Friday evening, he also condemned the pro-Hamas slogans in New York. And not only them. There are also tweets from NU, Governor Kathy Hochul, Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, and many other local and regional Democrats have also condemned these slogans. These are the same people who ignored campus protests targeting Jewish students and often marched with those chanting "from the river to the sea" and globalized the Intifada. How can they support slogans calling for genocide in Israel, violent Muslim uprisings against the non-Islamic world, and protests targeting Jewish students, all under the pretense of free speech? Now they suddenly condemn protests supporting Islamic resistance movement.
It's always interesting when someone changes their mind. You wonder what happened. I do it too. Many people, myself included, change their opinions. When a new idea, fact, or something else appears, you suddenly realize you misunderstood and change your mind. Grateful you still have honor and conscience to change your mind. But when a lot of people at the same time, seemingly without any serious reason, change their minds, that's what causes bewilderment. I would say, yes, all the Democrats, well, let's say at least in the state of New York, all of a sudden declared that Jews are, of course, bad. Well, it's clear that they're bad, but still, even though they're bad, they're not that bad. To throw them by the thousands into burning houses, to beat them with iron rods, and to cut unborn owners out of the bellies of their pregnant mothers. So you have to wonder, after all these years, they used to say that KAMAZ was good, and suddenly, for some reason, they changed their minds and started talking differently about things. Well, they knew everything all along. From day one, the manual changes everything. Actually, it's simple. The manual comes in, and after 10 months, we start softening the positions stated in the manual across the board. We start deceiving, not like we did last year, but in a different way now. We'll deceive in a way that helps us win the election. No matter what it costs us, we've stolen so much money that it doesn't matter to us how much it costs. But the main thing is that the Republicans' right wing, Tucker, Carlson, Candace, and others, have turned into anti-Semites, actively seething with hatred toward Israel and, it seems, toward Jews in general. And here, Vice President Vance is friends with Tucker and hangs out with him, despite the obvious anti-Semitism of Tucker, his buddies, and his team. Again, it's about the Jews. How lucky we are that the Democrats love us again. The Democrats actually want, against the backdrop of Vance and all these anti-Semites running wild from the right-wing Make America Great Again crowd, to appear kind, compassionate, and win back those votes. Well, for those who can't stand anti-Semitism, why do we need it? Greenland? The island is cold and empty. There are 56,000 people there. Half are Yakuts, no, not Yakuts. There I go calling them Yakuts again. They're Inuits and half are Danes. And in 1951, an agreement was signed between the United States and Denmark that Greenland, which is part of the Kingdom of Denmark, I don't know their role. Now they've declared that it's a county, so, well, before that it was just some territory, right? Greenlandic territory belonging to the Danish kingdom, that we could build, expand, and add radars and military facilities without Denmark controlling the amount. The existing agreement is actually so broad that Americans can do almost anything military they want in Greenland. And as they say, just don't change the flag. Above the main buildings there, which are two-story, their tallest buildings, I think, are 2 stories, but any, well, minerals. This requires the permission of the European Union and the ability of the European Union to play this kind of game with us. So we give you this and you give us that. We really don't want to play games with them. So turning Holland into a part of the United States means a long-term presence on the island without fear of losing control. It justifies all the investments, expenses, and infrastructure improvements there. Well, if it's our territory, then we're not worried about investing there. The history of purchasing Louisiana, Alaska, and the discussions about buying Greenland have long been present in American political culture and life. Trump considers the acquisition of Greenland a real estate project. He actually says it's good real estate with great potential. That's why he says, guys, you have 56,000 citizens living there in Greenland, so let me give each of you $100,000. So that's $5.6 billion, and we raise the United States flag. They have the right to vote, leave the building, and join whoever they want if they want to join, or they can remain independent. So Alaska was bought for $7.2 million in 1860, and today that's about $160 million. So if we look at today's Alaska, we basically bought it for what would be about $160 million today. Louisiana was bought from Napoleon for $15 million. That was around 1,803, I think. And in today's money, that would be about $420 to $430 million. They bought a huge piece of land, basically a whole corridor, by purchasing Louisiana. So the southern parts of Arizona and New Mexico were bought from Mexico for $10 million. In 1848, Texas was annexed in 1845 to 1846, and we paid off their debts. Texas had about $10 million in debt. We paid them off and took it over for the debts. What Trump is suggesting, what Trump is proposing, $5 or $6 billion is better, well, more expensive than Texas, Florida, and Louisiana when you calculate it per square kilometer, but there are explored minerals there, which of course makes the island more valuable. It seems that Greenland, well, the Greenlanders want it, they really do. It seems like it's about $1 million per person, and they pretend that they would never sell their homeland. Of course they'll sell it. No one will take anything from them. They'll just change the flag. So you live your life claiming Greenland as United States territory, not as a state, of course. Yeah, I think Puerto Rico is like that, and by the way, Florida was annexed for $5 million, paying that amount to the citizens of the state. They just made a deal with Spain. There was a large amount of payments involved, and they said, we'll take on these payments, we'll give everything, and you give us this territory. The Spaniards, just in case, because they understood that we could take it anyway, so to speak, said, well, at least we'll get some money for it. At that time, there were 4,000 white people and 4,000 black people living in Florida. Today, 5 million would be about right. So I once tried to calculate something like $127 million, that is, well, about 15,000 per person if, so to speak, you give it to all 8, both black and white. That's me. Compared to Trump's 100,000 proposal, Florida was bought for about 15,000 per person. They're offering 100,000 each. European analysts say that Denmark and Greenland want to get $650 billion from Trump, which is 100 times more than he wants to give. Well, they picked the wrong guy, and B, why on earth should we pay Denmark if Greenland has the right to leave the protectorate and decide its own fate? We'll tell them, guys, send those Danes packing, kick them out, and come to us. For that, we'll give you a certain amount of money, let's say 100,000 per person. Maybe we'll double that, or even 2.5 times. Those are some good sums. Yeah, that's how the cookie crumbles, as they say. Greenland will get it one way or another, as my Armenian friend said, if not by washing, then by rolling. Want some red smoke? I promised to talk about female psychopaths and military personnel, but a picture is worth 1,000 words, so here's a picture. Enjoy. I think it's wonderful. Let's watch it again for pleasure. Just for pleasure, let's watch it one more time. Park, park, park. And now about the Supreme Court and the simple question, how about telling boys from girls? I'm washing, but something's unclear. What do you mean? When you say boy, girl, you say there's a difference, and then you say you won't say. What?
Discrimination based on transgender status. Let me get back to some basics. Do you agree that a school can have separate teams for students identified as boys and students identified as girls?
Yes, Your Honor.
If that's really the case, then doesn't it become necessary for the purpose of ensuring equal protection if this provision is challenged under the Equal Protection Clause? Some sense of what it means to be male or female?
Yes, Your Honor.
What does that definition mean for equal protection? What does it mean to be a boy, girl, man, or woman?
Sorry, I misunderstood your question. I believe the key issue is whether it's a policy or a law. To determine if someone was excluded, we need to know how the state or government interpreted the term. We lack a court definition and aren't challenging it here. We're saying that in practice, this categorically excludes biological males from women's sports. And there's a subset of these biological males for whom It makes no sense to act this way according to the state's own interests. Thank you.
How can a court even determine whether there is sex-based discrimination without understanding what sex actually means for equal legal protection?
So, like, let boys become girls, and the judge asks, what is a boy, what is a girl? And how can a boy become a girl? And the answer is, we don't know. But then everything you're saying is absurd. So, a healthy boxer, let's say 2 meters tall, lost among the men, but wants to bring a gold medal home to his mom, has the right to do so. He joins the women's team and says, I decided on my own. I decided that I'm a woman. It just came to me right after I lost the fight.
I think we just know what they decided. Lindsay qualifies as male by birth under their charter and is therefore excluded from women's teams as the charter requires. So we accept the definitions of the charter as we find them, and we don't challenge them. We're just trying to determine whether they create an equal protection problem.
All right, let's suppose there's a school that has, well, let's say a boys' track team and a girls' track team. Yes, this school has that. It does. A student who has male genes and a male reproductive system and had them at birth and has never taken puberty blockers, never taken female hormones, never had any gender reassignment or confirmation surgeries. Nevertheless, I am a woman. That's who I am. Can the school say, no, you can't participate on the girls' team? Can the school say, no, you can't participate on the girls' team?
So, excuse me, so you are, well, just a man by birth who has all the advantages of male hormones, and can the school remove him from the girls' team? Yes, it can.
But this person, isn't she a woman? In your understanding, a person, says I sincerely consider myself a woman. I am essentially a woman of light, not a woman. This is a person.
I would respect their self-identity when addressing them.
And should he be allowed to compete, to fight, that is, against women, where he, well, as I understand it, easily wins the gold medal? And his friend said, I want the silver one too, and the third neighbor from the yard wants the bronze, and in another city a swimmer wants the gold in the women's category, and his friend wants the silver, and so on and so on. Yes, for some reason, no one, well, as far as I remember, let me know if you recall, has there been anyone? No one in women's sports seems to want to fight men in the ring. I wonder why. By the way, why is that? Interesting, isn't it? And about the alcohol from San Francisco, that's my favorite story. Did you think you'd seen thieves of all kinds, all shapes and sizes? No, you haven't seen anything like this yet, have you? It's incredibly funny. It's even funnier than the 9 billion stolen by the officials, stolen.
Let's talk about homelessness, because he admitted that the $24 billion allocated for the homeless over the years have disappeared and have been spent. But no one knows exactly what it was spent on or if it did any good at all. And this is what struck me, because he actually admitted it.
I wrote an article that came out today just highlighting one of these organizations in San Francisco that's supposed to provide free servings of alcohol to homeless alcoholics. And over 5 years, with an annual budget of $16 million, they served 55 clients.
No, you're making this up. Wait, what? Taxpayer money? And they're using it to buy free booze for street drunks?
Yes, and this has been going on for several years. The organization already existed but was strengthened during COVID, supposedly to keep homeless alcoholics out of emergency rooms. Well, we're kind of trying to reduce harm for these people. And, as I already said, giving alcohol to alcoholics is like giving crack to drug addicts and heroin to heroin addicts. It doesn't stop the problem. It only makes it worse.
I think it's hilarious. How much did she say? $80 million were allocated for buying tequila, vodka, and other wonderful drinks. But how many people actually got the drinks? Like 50 people. She said yes, so they would go to the warehouse, the base, to the supplier and say, here's a check for $1 million, and what do I get in return? I think $500,000 in cash. But from 80 million, if you calculate it like that, yes, from one program it's not the biggest. $40 million kickback, maybe even more. Who knows, and how much from other programs, and how much across all of California, and how much across all of America. Now, when people tell me that the United States debt is $28 trillion, I think I know who stole it from us. The ones we elected to steal from us, because that's exactly why we elected them. We elected some so they would steal more than half from us, and others so they would steal less than half. But we elected them so they would steal from us. Why are we raising our voices now and claiming they stole from us? Of course they did. And in the very end, do you think the gynecologist became a Democrat? Yes, the gynecologist became a Democrat. Do you think nothing happened? Something did happen before that, exactly, or was it her exactly? They recognized men and women. Some people visited them while others did not. But as soon as the gynecologist in the United States or the gynecologist became a Democrat, they couldn't answer the question of what makes a man different from a woman or a woman from a man. He or she can't become a Democrat. I emphasized before that they could.
Dr. Verma, I didn't quite understand your answer to Senator Moody just now. Do you really think that men can get pregnant?
I hesitated because I didn't know where the conversation was headed or its purpose. I mean, I care for patients with different identities. I care for many women. I care for people with various identities. That's why I paused. I wasn't sure what you meant. Dr. Verma, I didn't understand your question to the senator just now. Again, I paused because I'm not really sure what the purpose of the question is.
The purpose is simply to establish biological reality. You just said that science and facts should determine things, not politics. Let's check. Can men get pregnant?
I care about people with different identities, but I care about many women who are able to get pregnant. I also care about people who don't consider themselves women. I mean, people who don't identify as women.
So can men get pregnant?
Again, as I said...
Just a minute ago, you said science and facts should lead, not politics. So can men get pregnant? You're a doctor, right? Yes.
I agree medicine should be guided by science and data.
Do science and facts support that biological men can get pregnant?
I believe yes or no questions are political tools, and no.
Yes or no questions concern the truth. Doctor, let's keep this hearing focused on science and evidence, not turn it into a farce. That's why I'm asking you, the United States Supreme Court just yesterday examined this issue in great detail. This is not a hypothetical question. This is not a theory. It affects real people in their real lives. And you are here as an expert, invited by the other side as an expert, and you told us that you follow, right? You are a doctor, and you follow science and evidence. So I just want to know, based on science, can men get pregnant? It's a yes or no question. I think it is.
I think you're oversimplifying.
I'm trying, yes, it's not complicated. I'm trying to get a clear answer. I'm trying, frankly, to test your honesty as a medical professional and as a scientist. Can men get pregnant?
No, she couldn't answer this most difficult question because she didn't care about the truth. Wow, can you imagine that? She didn't care about the truth she spoke about. She fights for the truth from morning till night. And at night, too, she fights for the truth. Naturally, if she doesn't know, she should be disqualified. But she's a gynecologist. How can a gynecologist not know? She should accept one of the two and not accept the other. And if she knows, then she's lying. And in that case, she should be judged for lying in Congress. So, let's put it this way. Let's be precise. Yes, she's either lying or deceiving. She's either lying or... Well, I can't remember the next word. I need to come up with a synonym, but I think it's all the same. Actually...
I would be more than happy to talk with you as long as it's not an attempt to polarize or pressure me.
I'm not trying to be a source of disagreement. I'm just trying to ask. I'm glad we're here discussing science and women. And just to note, it's women who get pregnant, not men.
On that note, ladies and gentlemen, we'll wrap up. And I want to add that no, a man cannot get pregnant, period.